Good morning. Would you please open up a Bible to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 9? This morning is our last morning in our Jesus is King series for a while. Actually, next week, we're going to start into a new series called Citizens from the letter of First Peter. I'm super excited. We're going to kick it off with some cool things. But this morning, we're in a beautiful gospel narrative moment. Today we are reading from the Transfiguration text in Mark. And so let's start by reading from the scripture, start our morning together with Jesus. Mark chapter 9, we're starting in verse 2. It says, "And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, 'Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah.' For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. And a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, 'This is my beloved Son, listen to him.' And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them, but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen, until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead might mean. And they asked him, 'Why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come?' And he said to them, 'Elijah does come first to restore all things. And how is it written of the Son of Man that he should suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him.'" This is God's word. This story of the Transfiguration, it's mysterious, it's beautiful, I love it, but it's haunting. I think leading up to this mountaintop moment, there's a really fair question to be asked. Why would anyone ever dare to follow Jesus? Right before this transfiguration moment in Mark chapter 8, Jesus says to his 12, "Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me," which we often treat that statement as sort of just metaphorical. We see it as just looking at kind of a self-denial sacrifice. Take up your cross. But especially for the disciples, they would have heard this phrase, "Take up your cross and follow me," as death. Like, why would anyone want to follow this leader who says, "Follow me in death"? Church history actually even records that most of the disciples were executed. The Apostle Paul was beheaded. Peter actually was hung upside down on a cross. The first century historian Tertullian, he records that the Apostle John was actually thrown into a vat of boiling oil. Then today, for us even, for us who call ourselves followers of Jesus, claiming Jesus does not automatically just make people think that you're amazing or a wonderful person. In fact, some people will often think the opposite of you these days. If they hear that you follow Jesus, they'll think that you're a horrible person. I remember actually just a few years back, I was in downtown LA at a music venue, and I was talking with this group of people I didn't know outside of the music venue, and at some point it was revealed that I was a Jesus follower, that I actually believed the things that Jesus said about himself. And suddenly this group of strangers was all laughing so hard at me. And I remember one of them said, "I can't believe that you actually believe that a human was born from a virgin." And then he said, "It's amazing to me. At first you seemed intelligent." I mean, they're just so degrading to me. In our Western society, we don't really have currently the fear of physical danger because of our faith. But there can, for sure, be cultural and social consequences for choosing to follow Jesus here. And so my question remains, why would anyone choose to follow Jesus? And today, I want this question to hang in your mind as we walk to the mountaintop of the Transfiguration with Jesus. Because I think very likely for Peter, James, and John, they would have been questioning, what are we doing? Our leader has just told us he's going to be executed. And then he says that we too will need to be prepared to lose our lives. They had to have been wondering, what the heck are we doing? I've wondered myself along this journey of me trying to follow Jesus. I've wondered at moments, what am I doing? Why am I following? The disciples needed the Transfiguration, and we need the Transfiguration. And so I want us to go with the disciples this morning to the mountaintop and experience the beauty of Jesus so that we can walk back down the mountain into the reality of this current world. And so this morning, just two simple things. First off, I want to explain the Transfiguration, like what's happening, what does it mean? And second, I just want to ask the simple question, how does this Transfiguration encourage us to follow Jesus? So first off, what's happening here? The first time I read the Transfiguration, I kind of thought, this is a little bit trippy, seems weird, like what is this? But Jesus' Transfiguration is much more than a cool trick or some grand display of power. There's meaning here. The word transfigured in Greek is metamorpho, which we get the English word metamorphosis from. It says in verse 2 that he was transfigured before them. His clothes became radiant. And I love this line. It says, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. We try to bleach things at my house sometimes, and it never works with us. So this must have been intensely white. I love the description. Peter, James, and John witnesses Jesus's actual appearance morphing and changing right before their eyes. This is what is happening literally on this mountaintop. And then, if that wasn't crazy enough, two prophets of old, Moses and Elijah, who had been dead for many, many years, suddenly appear on the mountain as well. And what this means, Moses and Elijah, they represent all of the Old Testament scriptures. For them to be present on this mountaintop for Jesus' glorification moment means that all of the authority of the Old Testament scriptures are there to honor him. They support him. This is all of the scriptures saying we look to Jesus as the pinnacle. This is who we've been waiting for. This is the Messiah. Then, if all of that wasn't enough, then the voice of God from a cloud begins to speak. And God speaks a word of approval, and he said, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." On top of this ordinary mountaintop, what's happening is that heaven is breaking through into the earthly realm. On this mountaintop, the authority of all the scriptures, the authority of God is all pointing to Jesus and saying, he is the one. He is beautiful. He is glorious, and you must listen to him. This is what this moment means. Would it make sense, by the way, if you were on a mountaintop and then suddenly two men who had been dead for many years, for centuries, suddenly appeared, like an almost like an apparition, like they just transported out of time into this moment? Wouldn't it make sense? Heroes of old, wouldn't you want to speak to them? Wouldn't you have questions for them? But instead, the Gospel of Luke, it actually tells us that Elijah and Moses, they spoke to Jesus and they asked him of his soon departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Moses and Elijah were asking Jesus about the cross that was to come, his execution. For Moses and Elijah to appear in this moment means that everything from the past was pointing to this moment with Jesus. Everyone's focus on the mountain is on Jesus. Even God, the Father, is directing everyone. Look to him. Listen to him. This is what an experience with Jesus is meant to do. It's meant to reinforce that he's good, he is beautiful, he is glorified, and that we must follow him and listen to him. So today, this leads me to my second question. How does the Transfiguration encourage us today? Because I know that we all need help. We need encouragement if we are going to take up the cross and follow Jesus. Life is not easy, period. But especially with following Jesus and taking up our cross and denying ourselves, that's not an easy task for us to take up. Jesus knows this. God knows this. I mean, it makes so much sense. In every gospel writing, actually, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, this narrative moment with the Transfiguration is actually laid out the same way in each of the gospels, where it happens that Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me. He tells them of his soon-to-be execution at the cross. That moment always happens in each of the gospel writings right before the disciples then go to experience the glorification of Jesus on the mountaintop, his transfiguration. It makes so much sense to me. Jesus explains, you're going to be walking into a hard life. Following me will often be suffering. It will often be difficult. But it's not just that. They then go and get to experience, you know what, this is worth it. They experience the beauty and the glory of Jesus on the Transfiguration mountain top. Jesus is worthy of following. Jesus is glorious and wonderful. That's what this experience ought to have done for these men. The Transfiguration shows us that even Jesus' closest followers needed a moment of experience, the wonder of Jesus. And so what does this encourage us? It encourages that we need to experience Jesus' glory as well. You need to experience and behold the glory and the beauty of Jesus. It will never be enough for you to just follow Jesus because you think that some of his morals make sense. That will fade away. It'll never be enough for you to follow him because he defends some of your political leanings. That will also fade. And very likely, Jesus will at some point confront some of your wrong thinking on some part, somewhere down the line. It'll never be enough for you to continue to follow Jesus if you only look to him as a good teacher. We need moments of experiencing Jesus on a mountaintop. We need these kinds of experiences ourselves so that we can deal with the cold, hard realities of everything that exists down at the bottom of the mountain. We need to experience God and to be with God. And so how do we cultivate this ourselves in our lives? We withdraw and then we return. That's what's being represented here in this moment. The disciples and Jesus, they had to get out of town. They had to withdraw so that they could return. Even Jesus often withdrew so that he could return. says in Luke 5:16 that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. What could a withdraw and return life rhythm possibly look like for you? Well, I think really simply, I just want to propose to you today something practical. It looks like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly rhythms of life. We need to establish daily, weekly, monthly rhythms for ourselves. Daily. For me personally, I just have the ritual of making coffee in the morning, probably because I love it so much, but it helps me to get up so that I spend time away in the quiet, away from the noise of my children, to be with Jesus. If I don't do this, I just begin to be wrecked by the thoughts and the craziness and the stress of this world. Daily, get away to be with Jesus, to experience Him. Go to the scriptures, go to prayer, call on the Spirit to remind you of the beauty of Jesus, or else you will get crushed. Weekly, spend time with your community and worship. Spend time with your community as they remind you of the beauty of Jesus, as they remind you of how good God actually is. Monthly, schedule times for you to get away to an actual mountain. Go experience the beauty of creation. Look to the wonder of the heavens and see that it's so real. God is all around us. His glory is on display in these incredible mountains. We need times of getting away to be with Jesus daily, weekly, monthly. So how does this begin to encourage us to follow Jesus? Very simply, when you experience the glory, the beauty, and the love of Jesus, no one can deny your experiences. It's by the experiences that I have had with God that make it so that no one can ever talk me out of my faith. Are you kidding me? Jesus, I've seen glorified. I've seen His beauty. You cannot deny that from me. We need a life of beholding and taking in the beauty of Jesus. And so today, I just want to encourage you. You need to experience Jesus.